Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an incredible day. Bit of a packed video today, and without further ado, let's jump right into it. Major crypto exchange known as Binance will launch its first crypto lending product on the 28th of August. According to an official announcement on the 26th of August, holders of Binance Coin, Ethereum Classic, and Tether will be able to lend their assets and earn interest through Binance's new service called Binance Lending. Pretty straightforward. The service will be available from subscription from the 28th of August to the 29th of August. Binance noted in the announcement, lending products will have an initial 14-day period. Binance Coin will have the highest annualized interest rate of 15%, while the rates for Tether and Ethereum Classic amount to 10% and 7% respectively. Here they are right here. Here's a little chart. The first interest calculation period will be from the 29th of August to the 10th of September. Binance added that interest payout time will take place immediately after the loan term matures. The annualized interest rate for upcoming phases will be adjusted based on market reception during this initial phase, the company has stated. They said if user A subscribes to 10 lots of Binance Coin, which will be 100 BNB, the interest earned at the maturity will be 0.05 times 10 BNB, which will be half of a Binance Coin. Also today, Binance updated its lending FAQ, their frequently asked questions, by adding a new section called Binance Lending Service Agreement, claiming that the Binance lending asset will be used in cryptocurrency leveraged borrowing businesses on Binance.com. This is very fascinating for a number of reasons. A lot of people have been asking me over the last couple of while, and it's definitely been a while. People have been asking me what kind of passive income sources, things they could use within the cryptocurrency space to make income passively. While I have noted that people have been asking me this question, I have typically not answered them because a lot of the things within the cryptocurrency space have either disappeared, have been scams, or they were clearly not going to make it in my eyes. And what I mean by that is I saw a number of things, especially in 2018, there was a huge ruckus where everyone was trying to have some type of a lending platform or something along those lines. We've also seen other cryptocurrencies as well in 2017 who tried to have lending practices, lending platforms, but they did not end up working out, or rather they were not as big as many other platforms, and therefore they couldn't really not hold their weight. Anyway, the point being is that this and another one that we're going to talk about are probably, nothing is 100% safe in life ever. Anything can fall, anything can rise, anything can completely collapse to the ground. Binance is also not safe from ever not hitting zero and people not using it. But odds are, as the popularity of Binance increases, as they do have many, what are those things? Like the charters and the paperwork in order to be able to be used in other countries. I'm going to assume first off the bat, it doesn't say it in this article, this is probably not for US citizens. I am going to assume that they're working on something for US citizens, and this is probably exactly why they're trying to get on with the launch of Binance US within the next couple of weeks. The point being is that these are pretty good numbers. The news is all over the place. Everyone was kind of talking about this yesterday. The fact that they have something at a 15% annual interest rate is completely insane. For those of you who also don't remember, a couple of, I want to say weeks ago at this point, it may even be 2 or 3 months, we also had something from Coinbase where they announced that they would have a proof of stake staking service with Tezos. And I had assumed, and I still assume, that they had chosen Tezos before many other coins because they probably had a stake in Tezos. They probably were one of the main beneficiaries in its development. But even for the staking of Tezos, and the only reason why I didn't really talk about this before on the channel is because from what I had read, I think you need several million Tezos in order to be able to stake with Coinbase. But even then, I think they have a 7% annual percentage yield. Like, so at the end of the year, you will have received 7% of what you had with them. And this is why the Binance talking about that you'll get 15%, 10%, or 7% is also completely insane. For just to kind of put this into light a little bit more, I looked around at some other banks to see exactly what their APY was, their annual percentage yield at the end of the year, what you would get from the money that you had with them. Keeping in mind, always at the forefront of your brain, that the annual rate of inflation is typically always over 1% and is usually above 2% for every major country. They usually aim for a 1.5 to 2% inflation rate. So you would have to make more in percentage wise than the actual rate of inflation to actually be making money. So keep in mind, you would need to make over 2% per year in order to be able to make money. For this bank, you make 0.01. If you put under $5,000, you make 0.05. Amazing. If you put between $10,000 to $24,999, you make 0.01, or rather 0.1, which is doubling the 0.05. And it kind of continues on. If you put over $100,000 with this bank for your retirement money market savings, you get 0.10 and a bonus API of 0.6 as well. So you are losing money every single year in your retirement money market savings. You know how many times, for those of you who are looking for a podcast or something to listen to, start listening to the podcast from the Wall Street Journal. You can usually just type in WSJ on your podcast app, and it'll usually find it, because it's usually like WSJ money, WSJ retirement. They have like different categories for the things. I like listening to the ones about retirement. I love retirement stories and what analysts are saying about retirement and how they think people should retire. I'm fascinated by this, and I don't really understand the true extent as to why. When they have analysts on a lot of these TV shows or podcasts, whatever the case might be, they constantly talk about, yeah, you know, the rates aren't too good right now, but it would be smart of people to put their money into bonds or put their money into, you know, their normal bank savings account. You know, the rates are rather low, but they just won't make those returns anywhere else. And I sit there and wonder if these people know that they're lying, or if they sleep well knowing that they've just lied to potentially hundreds of thousands of people who are listening to them. I have a couple of friends as well. I know this friend isn't listening, bless his heart. A couple of years ago, I'll never forget this. He was asking me, I think he had managed to save around $2,000 or something like that. And he was asking me, where should he put his money? And I was like, dude, if you are really looking for something, I was like, what's your level of risk? And he told me like about an 8 out of 10. I was like, cool. Put half of that into Bitcoin. I had to explain to him what Bitcoin was. Bitcoin so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. He said, okay, cool. He was definitely going to do it. By the end of the week, this was years ago when I was actually still actively using Facebook, he posted something saying that he had just made the smartest financial decision of his entire life. And I remember feeling proud for half a second. I was like, oh, that's cool. He finally did it. I'm so glad that he bought some. This was also when Bitcoin was like $350. And I remember he had noted, and rather had said in his status, that he had put all $2,000 into a CD in a bank, which is a certificate of deposit for a 5-year period, which means that for 5 years, his money would be locked up with the bank, and he would receive an interest rate for having put his money with the bank. And I think he wrote that his interest rate was 0.5% per year. And how he had made such a cool decision, and everyone else, they backed him as well. They were like, my gosh, dude, that's so cool. You're going to make so much money. Oh my gosh, you're an investor now. And I messaged him and I said, do you know what inflation is? He had no idea what inflation was. And I had to explain to him that for the next 5 years, I'm pretty sure his money's still locked up for the next 5 years. He'd be losing money every single year as the US dollar got weaker and as he just wasn't receiving any money on his bank account. Just a little story I thought I'd give as a warning to other people out there. Anyway, continuing with the same exact topic trend, I found the actual savings account return rate for Deutsche Bank. It is 0.01. If you get a Deutsche Bank 6-month fixed deposit, it is 0.05, which is incredibly large. There's also ING savings account. You get 1%, which is barely scratching the surface of inflation. And also even more so for Chase, I decided to put, it was asking me for a zip code. And I was like, okay, 90210, why not? And their annual percentage yield is 0.01%, meaning you are losing money. Chase is using your money every single year, For those of you who don't know how you get these returns, how you get any returns at all, like the bank isn't simply just showering you with money because they think you're a cool cat. What it is that they use your money to do other investments. So they're taking your money. This is why whenever people have a bank run, or when multiple people, a huge amount of people at the exact same time try to get their money out of a bank at the exact same moment, why banks panic. Because banks usually don't hold that money with them. For those of you who don't know, it's usually sometimes not even there. They say that they have the money, but it's usually not with them at all. They're using your money to invest themselves. They usually tend to make anywhere from around 8 to 15% annually, if not more, off of the money that you are giving them. This is why every single year when you hear on the news, this bank made, 25 billion in profit, and it's made so and so and so, and the CEOs and the COOs end up making 10 million at the end of the year, 35 million in bonuses. Can you guess how they're doing it? They're doing it with your money, and this is the money that they give you. This is why banks are a scam, because they know, and everyone else knows who's in the banking industry or in the financial world, they know that these are the interest rates that they give you because they are making all this money by themselves. And the lower interest rate that they give you, the more that they get to keep for themselves. Isn't that terrible? So the fact that Binance is launching something like this, I assume that they're doing this with 3 coins for a reason. I assume they're not trying to open up the floodgates, but I assume that even by next summer, we are definitely going to have at least 10 to 15 different coins where they're going to have this type of thing. I wonder exactly how this will translate into the other proof of stake coins. This isn't going to be a one-trick pony or one-stop shop. Like, I doubt that Binance is just going to use these 3 coins and kind of end it there. We have a lot of coins who are going to, especially once we get Cardano on proof of stake. I wonder exactly how that's going to play out, because this is going to be a major industry, and there's a reason why. I mean, Coinbase, they try. They really do try, but they're so stuck on the fact that they are just trying to gather the attention from institutional investors or people who are incredibly rich, as opposed to dealing with the normal smaller man, if you will. Anyway, the point being, as time goes on and people realize or start getting more into the cryptocurrency space, they're going to realize that they want bigger returns. They want to actually make money from the cryptocurrency that they're holding. While it's nice to look at it in your account or on your desktop or on this website or so-and-so, and you see that you made US dollar-wise, 25%. Wow, that's great. That's amazing. No actual money has actually flown into your pocket. And I think that this is the beginning of what could start to become the norm. Banks will have to adapt with this and banks are not going to offer interest rates of 15% on the US dollar or the euro or the yen or anything else. Is not going to happen. I'm waiting for the first couple of banks out there, and I know that banks are going to start to offer their own cryptocurrencies, which is going to be terrible because it's going to be pegged to the US dollar and is going to be inflated to kingdom come. Part of the issue will be is that when people realize that they're not making that amount of money from them, or that when Binance or Coinbase or BitMEX or Bittrex or Poloniex or any other cryptocurrency exchange starts offering annual returns on Bitcoin, on Litecoin, maybe XRP ? Or maybe any of the other coins, especially once Ethereum finally eventually moves over to proof of stake. These are going to be very big moments because banks won't be able to handle the pressure of a company that started about a year and a half ago, like Binance, offering their customers 15%. That's just completely unheard of. Side note, for those of you who may be rushing to go do this, I would wait. Typically, myself, what I do, I don't care what comes out, how great it sounds, how amazing, how awesome, how cool, how much money. Whenever I hear something like this launched, I wait at least for 2 periods to pass by. They say the initial lending period will be the first 14 days. I would wait a month. I would wait 14 days, firstly, to see if this works out. If at the end of the 14-day period, if people are actually receiving their money, if the Binance system is actually working and people aren't having trouble withdrawing their returns. And I'd wait another 2 weeks after that as well. This is usually like the safe period. I never jump into anything immediately simply because I don't want to be burned. And it's bad that I wait to see if other people get burned, but it's kind of like a better them than me kind of thing. So I would wait. By the end of September, if this has gone off without a hitch, I would say definitely maybe dip a toe in the pool to see if this actually works out for you. Kind of fascinating. I like things like this a lot. I think that there are finally, as the cryptocurrency space has grown, options for passive income within the cryptocurrency space. We had very few before. I mean, we had a lot of them. It was like this, what was it? Like these like staking services for other coins that you could stake the coins yourself. But as the prices of coins were going down in 2018, this kind of evaporated very, very quick. Nobody was making any money at all, or people who were making money, they were taking their money out immediately, trying to put it into Tether or trying to put their money directly into Bitcoin, which worked out. But you have to have very quick fingers and quick thinking to be able to do this. So as this ends up going on, as of now, what this usually ends up being, my computer's dying. What usually ends up happening is that I think you receive the return in crypto directly and not in the US dollar. So if you were receiving the 7% of the Binance coin, you would receive, the percentage in Binance coin. So I don't think it would affect the actual rise and decrease in value of the cryptocurrency, because it's not going off of the US dollar value. It's going off of the actual amount of cryptocurrency that you have, i.e. if you have 10 million Satoshi and you're getting 10% on it, you would receive the 1 million Satoshi as opposed to the US dollar equivalent. This is the way that it logically seems. Anyway, we will definitely continue following this. I like the idea of this a lot. I'm waiting until, I think this will more so be normalized by next year. Once we get into a situation where, especially I think I have a friend who's into Cardano, like heavily into Cardano, and a couple of other people as well who are also have been telling me in the comment section that in order to stake Cardano, that you just need a Cardano, 1 ADA. That would open up the floodgates for people desperately trying to get into the cryptocurrency space. I mean, it would cause a situation where everyone would be buying ADA. This is kind of the idea as well for people. Once Cardano moves, once Ethereum moves over to proof of stake, and they have their very low issuance fee. This is why they're talking about having the previous issuance rate of Ether was 5 Ether, and now it's, I believe, 1 Ether, and they're trying to lower it to 0.2 Ether. If they move over to proof of stake, everyone's going to be buying up as much Ether as possible, or any other proof of stake coin, to be able to stake more on these other platforms. And then we get into a situation where, once again, banks will have to get with the program, because these, how, what's the word? I want to say rude it is to offer people interest rates this low and then tell people that these are great interest rates. I'm pretty sure if a lot of you have walked around your banks, we've all seen those advertisements with the family like hugging each other, like very, very happy. And it's like, you can receive your interest rate today, and it's like 0.25%. To normal people, this sounds like, I have no other way of making money, to let me do it this way. It's sad how greedy banks can be. So I'm expecting platforms like Binance and Coinbase to continue this. And as more regulations drop and stuff like that, they'll probably ease the restrictions and start to have more coins. Anyway, I thought this was fascinating. Let us move on. Next up. Where is it? There we go. New analysis of data from the trading platform eToro indicates traders have been plowing money into Bitcoin since the US-China trade war began. The data highlights 3 key dates that Bitcoin rose sharply on the exchange. This was reported by Business Insider. The first date is on the 25th of May, when the number of Bitcoin new positions soared by 139% as China tariffs raised on $60 billion on US goods. The second is the 25th of June, when Bitcoin positions jumped 40%, when the US announced it was willing to suspend a new round of tariffs on $300 billion of Chinese imports. My goodness, as negotiations between Beijing and Washington resumed. And the third is on the 13th of August, when Bitcoin positions soared 123% as the US officially delayed tariffs on some Chinese goods until December. My goodness. According to eToro analyst Simon Peters, both Bitcoin and gold appear to be reacting as the US-China trade war escalates. Bitcoin, by comparison, he said, shares similar characteristics to gold, and that there will only ever be a finite amount in existence, 21 million. It's decentralized, its prices is not affected by inflation, and has the added benefit of gold of lower storage costs. Interesting, because we've noted, and a lot of other people have noted, and I saw an article yesterday as well. It's really funny when you can tell that even the article is annoyed. The article stated that over the last 2 months, Bitcoin's price has not been as exciting as it would have liked it to be. Bitcoin's price has been anywhere between 9,600 to around 11,200 for the last 2 months, whether you have been paying attention or not. And Bitcoin's price hasn't readily moved as we've continued to get data and information that people have been buying up more Bitcoin as the trade war, the economy, everything has been looking relatively sour over the last couple of months. Obviously, all of this is happening over the counter. And we will never know, ever, sadly, how much money is actually being directly poured into the over-the-counter market, how much is being bought, how much is being hoarded, how much is being stored. We haven't also received any extra news from Grayscale. There was news a couple of days ago that the people from Grayscale, I think they've been making record profits or something like that. I think they were also on CNBC. It drives me crazy that so many of these things aren't put onto normal traditional media news outlets. Imagine someone on CNBC or CNN or Fox News or ABC, any other channel out there, announcing that bank interest rates are 0.01% or 0.5% with a 5-year fixed interest number that you can't even touch your money. But a website called Binance is offering 15% or 7% or 10% on you holding that. Imagine another thing announcing how few Bitcoin there actually is. It's very weird that this data, this information doesn't actually permeate into the normal traditional financial market, especially because we have the numbers. We can even, I'm pretty sure if someone contacted Coinbase or Binance or any other over-the-counter market and was asking them simply, during the time of these things happening, imagine how many people you would get into the cryptocurrency space if you announced during these dates, people were buying up millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin in an effort to try and hedge their so-and-so against the US dollar and how much money these people have. It's very fascinating. Anyway, we know that people have been putting money into the market. I think a large part of it is, I think we're still in that phase where I think normal people, air quotes, are starting to get it. I have a couple of friends, thank goodness, who've been buying at least 1 million, if not 10 million Satoshis. Thank goodness. If my friend out there, if you're listening, hello to you. It's finally starting to happen. Normal people are starting to get it and understand that they should be putting money into the system. But we won't get to that tipping point until I think rich people decide that everyone else should get into the market. They're filling up as much as they possibly want to right now, trying to gather as much as they deem reasonable for their pockets. But everyday normal people, I think, won't really have that switch flipped. There we go. Until Bitcoin's price is reaching 20,000. That's when I think we'll get, some of the people get back into the market. But for the everyday, normal, average person, I think a lot of them, even if you try and talk to your friends about inflation, trade wars, interest rates, or about passive income with cryptocurrencies, and you'll see that they really don't know or they don't care. And I've always found that very interesting. We're entering a point right now, especially where we were just talking about the whole retirement account things. Dare I use the B word? Billions of people on this planet will never be able to retire. We know that this is happening within the US, this is happening within Canada, this is definitely happening within Europe. I think new reports that just came out recently said that within Europe, I think the average age of retirement is around 65, 66, and they said that governments are thinking of start pushing the idea into people's heads that they won't be able to retire until they're 70. Keeping in mind, they're pushing that idea into people's heads who are in around 20, 25, 30. So imagine when the 20, 25, 30-year-olds are in their 60s, that 70 is going to be around an 80, especially as life expectancy is expected to increase dramatically over the next couple of years, because of new medicine, so-and-so, blah, 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 what have you, so on and so forth. People on this planet will never be able to retire. And when you tell them that it's okay for them to put their money into a bank account that won't get them any interest. You don't, I mean, well, the system is kind of made for people to work, but then you also get into the discussion of automation and all this other stuff. And imagine never being able to retire. Imagine where you work right now, having to work there for another 50 years, another 30 years, 35 years, and never being able to retire. And even imagine how sick it is. Like, and I mean terrible, that you tell people that they should get used to the idea that they have to retire when they're 70 or 75. And then what do? Excuse me for, we all have older relatives and or parents and or grandparents, but you can't really go anywhere. You can't really travel as you used to do. You can't do the things that you used to do. And you're being told to waste your entire life working for a company, organization, a bank, a government, or something that does not care about you. How disgusting is that? This is why this is one of the reasons why I think I actually continue with this channel, is because I'm hoping that I get the news out to more and more people. The way that things are looking right now, at least to me in my eyes and according to other analysts out there, is that cryptocurrency is going to be incredibly successful, especially as the years end up plowing on and governments end up falling and failing and fiat currencies inflate and what have you, so on and so forth. And the fact that there's a situation where you could potentially just put a couple of $100s into a market and potentially, even if Bitcoin soars to an amount where you are able just to have $500,000, do you know what that does for you to be able to retire, for you to be able to buy a tiny home, a tiny house, and to not live off of debt and live debt free and have money for it's incredibly fascinating, this world that we live in, where they make sure that people remain, I don't want to use the P word, but that they remain with nothing. It drives me absolutely insane. Imagine a world where news outlets actually reported that these things were going to happen. It's like they love to report after people have become rich, but they don't tell you before when you could have also become rich yourself. Like, how many news agencies were talking about Bitcoin dying and Bitcoin wasn't going anywhere when Bitcoin was $3, $4, $5 and so and so and so. Imagine having put $300 into Bitcoin back then, having 100 Bitcoin. Like, it's just I don't know. It drives me completely insane. And there's so many people who are affected by this. I know a couple of people who are probably never, ever, ever. Can you imagine never retiring? Can you imagine working for the rest of your life? There are so many documentaries on this. You can also find them on YouTube as well, where they talk to people who are in their 80s who still work at Walmart. They can't really do much. They use like the box cutters to like tear down boxes, and they like push it into the recycling thing because it's all they can do. And they ask them, do you guys have any savings? And they go, no, we try and save, but the rent is going up and we can't do so and so. It's absolute anyway. I've gone completely off track. But this is why I love cryptocurrency, because we're still at this very beginning of where everything is going to go. And I want everyone to be along for the ride, because there are definitely a couple of people who are going to be very angry in 30 years. Can you imagine also the amount of jobs that are going to be gone because of automation? Think of the job that you have, or that your friend has, or that your mother has, or that your sister has, or your daughter has, that's going to be gone because of automation, and they won't be able to have a job anymore. Like, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about this as well. Retirement savings, what are these things called? The 401ks, the supers, all these retirement accounts, they're all drying up. You can Google it as well. Governments didn't plan accordingly. Since the 40s or 50s, when a lot of these things were first started, they didn't plan on people living this long. It was widely accepted long ago that people would die in their 50s and 60s. So when they told you that you had to retire by the time you were 55 or 60, governments actually planned on you passing away already. I know it sounds terrible, but this is the entire mindset. For those who lived longer, there was enough money for them. The fact that people are living longer and are also having not higher birth rates, but the rate of birth inflation is also quite high. The governments can't keep up with this. Governments can't get enough money or raise taxes enough without people being upset to kind of offset the amount of money that they're going to need. So a lot of the retirement accounts within the world that we have right now are either going to be heavily affected by the next recession and may never fully recover, or governments savings retirement accounts are going to be completely dried up within the next 10 to 15 years. Google it. The information is out there. It's not even on like any tinfoil hat places as well. They talk about it often on the Wall Street Journal. They were talking about it a couple days ago. One of the things I was listening to, and the guy was saying, it was the entire discussion. He was saying that you should get ready, or he said you should try, if you plan on retiring, try to work at least another 3 years as a just in case, so that you have some, an extra nest egg. And he was talking about, for medical care, for this, so and so. And so if you decide to go on this and if you decide to go on that because of the rates of inflation, there was all these, it's this positive message of you should be okay with working longer for your employer who doesn't care about you, to be able to make a bit of extra money over the course of 3 years, to be able to potentially maybe pay for the rent that you have right now. How terrible is that? How absolutely disgusting. It drives me completely insane. Anyway, like I always say, for those of you who are already in the cryptocurrency space, count yourself lucky that you are far ahead of the curve. When people realize how few Bitcoin there are out there, and that 6 million of them are lost and gone forever, and when we get to those 1.8 inflation rates for Bitcoin, and then 0.8 or 0.9 inflation rates, and then the 0.45, that's when things will get a bit more real for people. Anyway, let us move on. Next up, Bitmain is in the news, which is very fascinating, and I will tell you why. Showing renewed optimism, Bitmain is increasing its investments in the crypto mining industry. Now, Bitmain is reportedly buying 600,000 new crypto mining chips. As a result of this new investment, the company expects to make over $1 billion in profit. The battle to produce fast cryptocurrency mining gear is heating up. In this context, Chinese Bitcoin mining giant Bitmain Technologies Limited is placing orders for new mining machines with high hash rate capacity. In this connection, and according to the Chinese news outlet, recently a supply chain person close to TSMC broke the news. The source reported that Bitmain has reportedly placed orders for 600,000 mining chips. As Bitcoin is reported earlier, Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company TSMC is Bitmain's chip supply contractor. TSMC ranks as one of the most profitable chip makers in the world. And they talk about the blah, 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 the kind of chips that they're getting. Why is this interesting? Bitmain, for those who do not know, at a time in 2017 and also in 2018, was one of the largest Bitcoin mining facility company contractors that we had on this planet. We had a lot of information and a lot of news. People were talking about it, myself included, last year, that Bitcoin had a centralization problem, is what we can kind of say. Bitmain controlled, it was estimated, minimum 42% of all the Bitcoin hash rate, anywhere up to around 58%. The problem is that when you control over 51% of the network, the idea is that you can potentially gain control of the network. You can double spend, you can create new coins, you can change the protocol. In theory, this is the idea. So Bitmain came under a lot of fire because, and it's weird, because it's a double-edged sword. Bitcoin is meant to be a system where everything is decentralized and everyone can do as they wish on the network. You can do this, you can do that. Everyone can buy mining equipment. It just happened to be that Bitmain saw what was coming first. They bought the equipment first, and they got the largest market share before anybody else, and they continued to grow and expand as they were making billions and billions of dollars. So this was kind of the fascination of the topic. It was that everyone has the right to do what they want to be able to mine enough Bitcoin, but if one person or entity decides that they want to do this more than others because everyone else wasn't really paying attention, then we get into this situation. So what ended up happening was Bitmain became huge. People were asking not where they were, but to prove that they were actually a real company. And this photo leaked, air quote, last year. See how long this building is? It actually continues further and further. There were, I think, like 16 of these, and they had a lot of them, and they said that they were planning on creating more. This was around the same exact time when China announced that they were going to be hyper banning Bitcoin, and you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that, and they were going to start coming down heavily on cryptocurrency mining companies because Bitmain is in China. At the same exact time, while prices were going down over the course of 2018, Bitmain had decided to expand. Why? Because people believed during the first 3 to 6 months of 2018 that cryptocurrency prices were going to go back up. I'm pretty sure, is that a basketball hoop? Okay. I'm pretty sure you all remember that period where prices were going down, but we had analysts talking about that by the end of 2018, the price would be over $50,000. We all remember it. We were all there. We all heard this news. What ended up happening is that prices continued to go down, and as they had expanded, they were losing money. So one of the things that they had first announced that they were going to do is that they were going to stop mining Bcash, and I think that they were also going to start selling other cryptocurrencies that they had also started mining. Part of the problem is that they had held, because I think Bcash's hash rate in comparison to Bitcoin was dramatically lower. I remember a time period where people who loved Bcash were announcing that because their hash rate was so much lower and so much more profitable than Bitcoin, that everyone should just simply switch over to Bcash because they would make so much more money. That's not really logical. You don't switch over to a crappy coin simply because it's easier to mine. But this was the entire idea, and a lot of people had. I think at one point Bcash's mining rate. I don't think it had surpassed Bitcoin, but it was incredibly high. Everyone was loving it. It was losing their mind. But then when Bitmain had to make some money back, they were firing a lot of their workforce. This was also incredibly large news. And they also announced that they would have to sell off their Bcash and their Litecoin, which were other coins that they were mining easier than Bitcoin because the hash rate and the difficulty of mining Bcash and Litecoin was so much lower. So reality hit a lot of people that because they had decided not to sell off their Bitcoin, their number one coin, but were selling off altcoins, the prices of a lot of other coins continue to slam down because I don't know if it has it somewhere around here. Maybe this is even it right here, 315 million. I don't think we have the exact number. Here we go. According to a leaked financial document surfaced in August of this year, that was last year, Bitmain currently holds 900,000 Litecoin, 1 million Bcash, and 22,000 BTC, 312,000 Dash, 1,000 Ether, and blah, blah, blah. I think that's all I assume these are all the coins that they have announced that they were holding. So they held an enormous amount of Bcash because it was easier to mine Bcash, and also held, who knows, an enormous amount of Litecoin. And this is why we saw the very bearish activities in the market for those two coins, and also the prices dropping for those coins even more so. What is this one right here? Yeah, this was the whole sell-off news that we had at the end of last year. This is why, bringing it back to the beginning, why it's very interesting that Bitmain is showing renewed optimism in the market, because a lot of people, I think even Bitmain's hash rate had also decreased dramatically. I think they had dropped to the 20 percentile, somewhere around there, which is still enormous. They still have a fourth of the pie, at least. But part of the issue was that people had with Bitmain is that they were located in China. China had announced that they didn't like Bitcoin, this was the news that we had in 2017, 2018, keeping all of that in mind. Because as of right now, we've definitely seen China change their tune dramatically on the cryptocurrency space. But the idea is that if the largest amount of hash rate of the Bitcoin network is within China, and China doesn't like Bitcoin, so they simply then tell all the mining factories, no, stop what you're doing, tear everything down, and therefore Bitcoin's network security would also plummet. On the other side, which didn't end up happening, obviously, on the other side of it, as the cryptocurrency industry gained strength during 2018, a lot of people started speculating, and I think this was even semi-confirmed a couple of times, that obviously, if the Bitcoin network is going to continue to expand, if Bitcoin could one day potentially hit 100,000, if Bitcoin could potentially hit $1 million, and all of this is happening within China, and as China likes to control everything, they would probably also join in on the fun. So it was this situation that we had last year. I'm pretty sure a lot of you remember as well. There was a debate going on between Bitcoiners and XRPers that like which coin would be adopted more, because I think the United States had mentioned something, or there was speculation about the US not potentially adopting Bitcoin completely because it was mainly controlled by China. And this is the beginnings of the start of the entire trade war thing. So you see how all the news ties together? I mean, I guess the cryptocurrency space is far more speculative than many other things. But this was kind of the news that we had floating around out there. And there was also stuff that the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank was talking positively about Ripple, and they had mentioned XRP a couple of times. And there was crypto's crazy. Anyway, Bitmain apparently is going to try and get their market share back. I assume this is going to be insane. I expect, is there a time frame for this? Nope. I expect by the end of this year, or rather if they've ordered these, by the end of this year, if not by spring of next year, we're going to start getting articles again about the disproportionate amount of hash rate that Bitmain owns, controls, because, I mean, to be honest, if I controlled 54%, if not more, of Bitcoin's hash rate, I'd be patting myself on the back. I mean, these people are probably going to become hyper millionaires, if not hyper billionaires. So, yeah, let's move on. Next up, the Superintendente of Nacional de Criptoactivos, SUNACRIP, SUNACRIP, in Venezuela, Josely Ramirez, has appeared on national radio to encourage people to use the Venezuelan state-backed crypto asset known as the Petro. Ramirez reminded listeners that the Sistema Patria was now online for simple, secure remittance payments, and I will tell you why all of this is significant in a couple of moments. Last year, the government of Venezuela became the first nation on the planet to launch a purely digital currency known as the Petro. The Petro is supposedly, no one knows, backed by the nation's oil or petroleum reserves. That's why we have the name. According to a post on the vice president of Venezuela's he has a website, okay? Website, Josely Ramirez urged listeners to use the newly created national remittance payment system during a radio show presented by himself and dedicated to the topic of crypto assets. The show was broadcast on the nation's state-sponsored radio network, Radio Nacional de Venezuela. SUNACRIP, according to the website, is an autonomous body, sure, dedicated to regulating crypto asset activities. Here's the actual photo right there, and here he is talking with someone during the broadcast. Ramirez stated that the recently completed Sistema Patria, dedicated to sending money from overseas back to Venezuela, was both fast and safe, whilst being less prone to inflationary pressures than previous alternatives. The regulator said it's the easiest and safest way to send money, and it's the only way that income is not depreciated. I disagree with that. The point is, for those of you who do not know, Venezuela last year or the year before, I think it was last year, was the first country to create their own cryptocurrency. We had a couple of other places. I keep mentioning Dubai. I'm pretty sure it's something in Dubai created their own cryptocurrency. I guess maybe it didn't catch on. But Venezuela created their own cryptocurrency. They did so because they were under enormously heavy sanctions from the United States. And as such, many other countries also took notice and started, so the assumption goes, gathering up as much Bitcoin as they possibly could over the course of 2018. This is when we had news that North Korea was hacking South Korea and also robbing other cryptocurrency exchanges to get a lot of cryptocurrency. Yes, North Korea has an enormous amount of Bitcoin. This is when we heard potentially there was an economist who's on the board in the State Duma in Russia who announced that Russia was also going to be buying Bitcoin, and people were like, no, Russia would never do that. Why would they announce it? Because sometimes people slip up. People just announce things, and that's how things work. We also had indications that Iran could be potentially doing so. I think we had news that Venezuela, Russia, Iran, and fourth country were actually testing cryptocurrency payments between themselves. Once again, this is speculative news that we had in an effort to get away from U.S. sanctions. I think in total, I think there are 7 to 8 countries who are under heavy sanctions by the United States. And these sanctions are so heavy that it stops other countries from dealing with them. Kind of insane, right? The US is strong enough and able to tell other countries, you can't talk to that entire landmass and you cannot deal with them monetarily. So during the advent of cryptocurrencies and people realizing, hey, we can simply buy up Bitcoin and send money between ourselves, Venezuela created their own cryptocurrency. Part of the problem so this is the actual, I'm going to try and do the whole sequence of events if I possibly can. When Venezuela announced that they were going to be launching their own cryptocurrency, I think the US government came out and said that every person who was a US citizen was banned from even touching it. And I believe to I guess a larger extent, maybe even going to Venezuela. I'm not sure about the last part. In order to get money into Venezuela, the country had announced that you could only use the petro. What happened was is that nobody was using the petro because it's garbage. So what was happening was that over the course of 2018, a lot of people we were getting reports that within Venezuela, people were using Bitcoin and were also mining Dash to be able to actually send money, use money within the country. What ended up happening is that we had a couple of videos that were floating around of someone buying, I think he went into a Subway, like the sandwich shop, and he was paying with Dash, and he went into somewhere else and bought some chips and he was paying with Dash. But what ended up happening was that the Venezuelan government, and I remember being shocked. I remember sitting there thinking, we have a country who's in economic turmoil, who has announced that they're going to be using Bitcoin and Litecoin, and I think prices didn't move for about 2 weeks after that. It drove me completely insane. The Venezuelan government announced a new remittance program, which is what this guy was just talking about right here, in order to get money within the country that would only support the petro, Bitcoin, and Litecoin. And I mentioned multiple times with bated breath at that point, we once again, the entire idea was that at some point we would get a country on this planet who would announce, our currency is garbage. We need to use digital currencies. And everyone's like, that's going to take years to happen. It's going to take forever. That's never going to happen. Lo and behold, we had a country who announced that they would be supporting, as the only things that could go into their country, was Bitcoin, Litecoin, and the petro. I assumed also at this point that they announced that they were doing so because they probably realized this was probably one of the only ways for them, or one of the easiest ways for them to acquire Litecoin and Bitcoin without having to buy it themselves, because the government is not doing that well monetarily. So this was kind of my assumption on the entire thing. What does this one say over here? Here's the actual article on this guy's website of him talking about the crypto remittance platform. The fact that we even know this news is kind of crazy. Oh, that, my gosh. This right here. The fact that we have a country on the planet that has announced openly that they are accepting Bitcoin and Litecoin as a payment. They've announced our currency can't do this. We have our currency's garbage, and therefore we have to adopt other measures. Bitcoin should be around $25,000 right now, because I'm pretty sure there are other countries around the world who are also doing this. A part of this as well, for those of you who don't know, this was mandated. For those of you who aren't looking at the screen, it says Venezuelans must now pay passport fees with the government's petro cryptocurrency. I think it was also a thing, excuse me, sorry. There was also a thing as well where I think it was something with airlines. Something with the airports in Venezuela. If you Google like Venezuela airport petro, I think you'll find that I think you had to buy airplane tickets with the petro. I forgot exactly what it was, but they were trying to mandate these things, like government services around the country had to use the petro. I think there was also a mandate that people had to use them in supermarkets. There were many mandates that were actually, this is a real building, by the way. This is a real thing with a gigantic petro sign on it. Think about that. Think of how weird and dystopian this entire thing is. They were trying to mandate that within the country, people had to use the cryptocurrency, but People weren't using the cryptocurrency. People were using other normal coins. Hey, what does this one say? Yeah. So by this point, we started having tons of information that the Venezuelan petro was a complete failure because no one was using it. Nobody wanted to touch it. I think it was also, they said that it was tied to their petrol reserves, but there was no indications that that was actually true. I think people were trying to mark the value of the petro in accordance with the US dollar and Bitcoin, and it was also sinking. And then we also had an instance during 2018 where the government had also announced that they were going to try and peg the petro to their gold, but I think the country doesn't have enough gold to even, it was just a complete mess. And then we also had news to bring it on home that hyperinflation in Venezuela had hit 10 million%. There's no going back for them. So I think this may be the last leg of what they're trying to do. Having the vice president go on television and telling people that this is the easiest, safest, and greatest way for them to send money in and out of the country may not be true. I cannot say whether it, oh my gosh, there's a drop of black oil. How? I always wonder who creates the like, who does the marketing for this? Venezuela is a very oil-rich country. This is what they're known for, and this is why it is believed that their country collapsed, because they put everything on the back of their petrol reserves. And as the petrol reserves around the world, long story short, people don't use petrol as much. We're moving to a more electronic world. And when you put something on toothpicks, those toothpicks end up wearing down. Eventually, everything kind of crumbles. So this is kind of where things are. Anyway, I forgot exactly where I was. My entire point being, I assume this is the last leg of what they're trying to do. They've been trying for about a year and some change to get people within their country to know how great the petro is and how you should use it and how it's so and so and so. But I think them even announcing that Bitcoin and Litecoin are alternatives should have sent the entire world into a frenzy to start buying more of these. People will learn eventually. But the point is, by the end of this year, I think if this hasn't caught on, I think we're going to start hearing them talk about just using Bitcoin and Litecoin. I think it's going to take, hit the mic, sorry. I think it's going to take a lot for a country to formally announce we have to start using this because nothing else has worked. I think Venezuela is they're well on their way to announcing that they're going to do this. But I think that'll be the major tipping point for the entire world to really get it. And even then, what makes me so upset is that when we get news like this and it doesn't hit news media outlets, television, it drives me insane. The world economically is not doing well. And there's a country, once again, who's announced, if you want to send money in and out of the country, simply use Bitcoin and Litecoin. Anyway, before I blow a fuse, let's move on. To kind of finish things off, users on mobile messaging giant Telegram will soon be able to test how to trade cryptocurrencies. According to an announcement released today, the developers of Button Wallet, a popular messaging or messenger-based platform for trading Bitcoin, Ether, Bcash, Litecoin, and several other cryptocurrencies, are launching a free digital currency testing playground on Telegram's Open Ton network, or Ton. The pilot will allow users to access free crypto distributed on the Button network. Each user will receive 6.6 testnet grams to practice, minimizing the fear and risk of using their own cash. Button's management believes that giving Telegram's customers the ability to buy or trade crypto assets without having to risk real money will help promote the launch, which is scheduled for October 2019. Everything is lining up. It's driving me nuts. Everything is lining up for September and October. Driving me completely. Anyway, Button Wallet CEO and co-founder Alex Savanov said, "Crypto's biggest obstacle is mass adoption. And what we've created will help people become more comfortable with trading cryptocurrency without using real money. With all the fanfare surrounding Facebook's Libra digital currency, there hasn't been a way to explore digital assets without risk. Until now, with Button Wallet and the Telegram Open Network. Without reading any further, this is kind of cool. Oh, yes, thank goodness. Oh my gosh, almost forgot. On the topic of Telegram and all the other apps out there, I've noticed once again, because this happens every couple of months, people have been asking me if I am on Telegram, if I have, long story short, people keep faking my email address, people keep faking Telegram, all these other things, all these social media platforms. All I use is YouTube, obviously. I then post my video on Twitter and also post it on Facebook. That's all I use. I don't use anything else. So any other platform where someone is pretending to be me, telling you that you can get financial advice, that is not me. Any other platform, anywhere where someone is telling you to give them money or cash or crypto or anything as an incentive for cryptocurrency advice, that is not me. And I mention it because someone was asking me just yesterday, they saw me on a platform asking people if they needed cryptocurrency advice, and apparently a couple of people took it. Don't take it. That's not me. Never is. Once again, YouTube, and then I post on Facebook and Twitter. And sometimes I write stupid things on Twitter, but that's just for fun. Back to the topic. This is very interesting because we are seeing the advent of what I hope will be cryptocurrency trading on a wider scale. Not that even that people have become accustomed or are being held back by trading cryptocurrencies on websites, on Binance, on Coinbase. It's more so when people can do stuff on their mobile devices. It is, I think it's easier and quicker. And it's also a way for people to not have to deal with people tracking what you're doing, if I can say it that way. Cryptocurrencies are meant to be free and open, and I believe that people should be free and open to do things with their own money as they deem fit, especially on a lot of these platforms. The point being, we are going to move further and further into a world where you are not reliant on centralized exchanges or even having to use the major names, and you can simply do so through platforms like this. I wonder exactly how this will change things, especially on the Ton network. I find it fascinating that you'll be able to trade eventually other cryptocurrencies. What this is going to lead to is also widely believed, first of all, that other people are trying to launch their cryptocurrency trading platforms, their cryptocurrency, blah, 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 their own company cryptocurrencies before Libra does, because Libra is expected to be gigantic. It's also widely speculated that as the Calibra wallet is expected to be open sourced, that people will also, rather, that eventually, speculation, that Facebook will eventually add Bitcoin and potentially other decentralized coins to their Calibra wallet as well, which would cause the prices of these coins to completely skyrocket. But other platforms are also starting to launch these coins on their systems as well. And it leads us into a world where we can quickly, freely trade cryptocurrencies, and I find it quite fascinating. I think Ton is supposed to launch around October. I think that's the final date that they were given, because it was either Telegram or Kick. I'm pretty sure it was Telegram. I think that their launch was delayed by a bit, and I think Halloween was the last date that they were supposed to be able to launch without having to refund their customers. So I assume, or one would assume, that they're working diligently to not have to pay anyone back, because I think they made a good chunk of change for their ICO. Here's the actual article right here. Button Wallet releases crypto transaction testing for Telegram Open Network. As always, a very, very special thank you to my Patreon supporters: Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Adam Krazik, Mohair Maroney, Master Ventures in Thailand, Brady Niels, Woody and Daisy, Triple M and J, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the World, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Meluizi, JR, Mechanic, Strange Radio Central, Crypto Artist, Coldy, 3D, Cryptopolis, Nicholas Renault, One Piece, One Love, Damien, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich the Third, Vlad the Impaler, Crypto and Beer Shipmate, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Gardner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, and Miller hits chest every day. And Kyle skips leg day. Thank you all very, very much for your support. At the moment, the market is mostly in red, except for Tether, which is in green, which means that people are buying it, but it's also going down, which could be an... Anyway, Bitcoin is currently at 10,200 US dollars. We are stuck in this range. Who knows when it'll break? No one knows. That's the magic of cryptocurrencies. I was reading something earlier where this analyst was saying he believes that this week could be the week for a major break, i.e. we're in this tight range, or rather, we've been in this range for quite a bit of time, and that he expects Bitcoin to do one final drop before a massive movement up, because apparently the indicators are looking relatively bearish, in that it doesn't look like Bitcoin is poised to move up anytime soon. But a lot of people believe that we need one final dip, test the bottom one more time, and then move back up. Very fascinating as well, just looking at that. That Binance coin is actually the lowest coin down in the top 10 by 6.72%. Maybe people weren't too thrilled of the launch of their new passive income thing. It could just be something else. It could be something that we're not even aware of, and we'll get news about in the next couple of hours. But at the moment, no coins are doing anything too excessively crazy that I can see. Everything's down around 4, 5, 2%. This is up by 10. Great. Nothing else is really doing anything spectacular at the moment. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope that you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all, every single one of you, once again for watching and or listening. If you think about putting your money in a money market account or in a CD account or anything that is tied with a bank for the next 5 years, I would tell you to maybe look for alternatives. I cannot and will not ever tell you where to look to where to exactly put your money. But if you have any friends who are talking about that they want to make some money on the side, and they are mentioning that they may put their money into a bank, just either show them this video or just show them these numbers, because it's not looking too good, and nobody wants to lose money. Thank you all, every single one of you, once again for watching and or listening, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.